I've got mine on.
Yeah.
I think we go round and round, but...
Yeah, I've got the same thing, Jackie, the twirling thing, and I don't see Cathy at all.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll just leave it, because we can hear each other really well, can't we?
Yeah.
I must apologise to Liz.
The picture's frozen, Jack. I'm not sure why, but it is.
Ah, right. Okay, well, I can see, as I say, you're moving, it's really clear. I can see myself, but with Liz and Cathy, yours are just circling. But it may come in a minute anyway.
Okay.
So we'll see. But my apologies to Liz for not getting that redraft to you on Tuesday, because I was just, again, that thing of being snowed under. But yes, not like you.
I was, the funny story here is that our friends here were supposed to fly out on Friday. And, of course, there were no flights landing in Toronto on Friday.
Yeah.
So they're stuck here.
Darn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a lot of sympathy on this end, sorry.
You know, it's just so funny. I've heard of those stories before, but I've never known anyone it actually happened to. So the earliest they can get out now is Wednesday.
Right.
God, that's amazing, isn't it? What a delay. Yeah.
Monday is supposed to be freezing rain, so...
Yeah.
Oh. So apparently it takes 3 days for them to clear out the
Backlog, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they're working, this is WestJet, and they're working with American Airlines to try to get people back and forth. But imagine if you were on the other end and you had a week here and couldn't get out.
Yeah.
We've had thousands of flights cancelled, to the US and Canada. And literally thousands. Yeah.
Well, it is February in Canada. I mean, this is why I
What
get
happens?
the hell out.
Yeah. Very wise. How are we getting on? How are we feeling about the writings? Do you want to?
I must confess that I haven't got much done this week, and I'll do a better job next week. But it's just get into this lull, Just if you do 2 things in a day, it's quite a bit.
Like get up.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
But that snow day must have been a blessing in disguise if you're trying to get something done.
Yes, I have kids I have to figure out what to do with, but I feel I'm in the process of trying to winnow what it is I want to say, because there's so much, and I did a Liz diagram yesterday. Mine's more of a diagram, sort of flow chart than Liz's, but I think I see where I'm going, and I'm doing writing, but it's like starting and then realize, okay, wait. They don't need to know all that. And then trying to really focus.
Checking, Jack, are you recording?
Yes, I've got this.
Sorry, Cathy.
It's okay.
I did read your journal. I thought that was really interesting, how you're really taking, this whole culture of inquiry and seeing it as it connects to the writing of report cards under some, political duress and coming out with something that's significantly improved. I mean, that's pretty special. I love that.
Yeah, it was, one of the most, so I've sorted their questions, and one of the most poignant for me, there were a couple, and one I do have the permission to share, but she's one that's in one of the videos, and was having trouble with the one-to-one feedback, feeling the pressure of being the only one on the hook for answering my questions. And so she stood there beside me and said, I'm okay with taking positive feedback, but when I get negative feedback, I feel like I'm not a good person.
Gosh, yeah.
Would like to learn how to accept, critical feedback without getting stressed about it. And so that's the question. And it's just like, wow.
Well, I think all of us could feel that. I mean, it's certainly true of me. I mean, I have to prepare myself for negative feedback.
exactly. And that's, I had a little discussion with her when I was doing that. I said, one thing that Jackie taught me was how to put yourself in the position of asking for the feedback. And maybe that's something I'm trying to model when I asked you guys for feedback about my practice in math. And now maybe that's something you want to try and see if it feels any different when you are the one in control and asking for the feedback yourself. So she's thinking about that.
Well, I think that is helpful if you prepare yourself, that you say, I want feedback. I need feedback, both positive and negative, but especially negative, in order to improve. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know that I'm prepared for the negative feedback, and I want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such an important area, this, and where I think it was you, Jackie, put in some quotations about gender issues in relation to the paper that we were doing with Liz. And what struck me is in a session that I had with the staff of a primary school this last week, who were all women, their sense of vulnerability to even having the video on or being judged was much higher than, and I don't know whether I say, as a man that I experienced, but I suspect that there is a gender issue here about the vulnerability and about the importance of preparing people, as you just said, Jackie, in terms of asking for critical feedback and being willing to see that this can be an opportunity to some really important learning.
Yeah.
So it feels to me that this is really worth focusing on, Cathy, because I think, as I say, this is what I've noticed time and time again, and a lot of our primary teachers clearly are women, and they're very hesitant about bringing their knowledge and making it public, and I think this is part of the issue.
And I think the flip side of that is being critical of others as well.
Yeah.
And I've got something that I want to write about for that other paper is, I've got, looking through my journals here, what it took for me to get to the point of saying, hey, Jack, I don't get this part,
Yeah.
And had that conversation we had, that took a lot of time to get to there. So it's definitely another side of that vulnerability.
Yeah, really important.
And so I may just jump in here.
Good.
Because I have a question about the gender issue section of the paper. And I've been thinking about this. I read the paper on Friday, and I haven't really been able to do much else because I've been thinking about it. Yeah. And then we got, my plans have changed for the weekend, so I got off track a bit. But I'm wondering, Jack, if is it possible that acknowledging the gender issue in our encounters actually creates like a self-fulfilling prophecy?
It might do, Liz, but my experience is that I am actually learning more about the importance of gender issues. So it's not that it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just that when I worked with Jackie in the late 1990s, I found it strange that in Canada, a lot of people were shied away from being critical in the sense that they could almost help each other to strengthen the validity of their accounts. And this idea of being criticised, it was almost that it undermined the sense of identity. So I'm becoming aware of the importance of gender issues without them becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. Do you see what I'm meaning? That I'm becoming, if you like, I'm beginning to understand more about why it could be that a lot of the people that I'm working with, especially in primary education, who are women, find it quite difficult to come forward when they're doing really excellent work. They're being told they're doing excellent work. But this last week in the staff meeting, the teachers clearly didn't believe it.
Yeah,
So
the whole story.
Yeah.
It's that humility that seems to be inherent in teaching, in particular, I think, in elementary schools. But teachers don't believe that they have important knowledge, and it takes a lot of time and energy to get them to see it.
And I don't know that it's any different for the two males in my elementary school that I'm working with. Like, I'm sure there are differences individually, but it's still an issue.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that's, when I think about my own experience, I never felt oppressed as a woman intellectually. It was more as a person.
Okay.
And so when I read the poem written in memory of Sally Cartwright, Jack.
Yeah.
And so if you read that poem with, sort of a lens of gender issues on, and so don't think of me as opposed to being gone, but don't think of me as a woman. Just think of me as a human being, as a person.
Yeah, yeah.
So every other line in that poem shows you how to look at me through the lens of a person instead of a woman.
Yeah, no, I like that. And that's how I viewed Sally, it was as a person.
Yeah.
Rather than as a woman.
And that's the impression. So I always have to bring it back to a specific example to sort of process it. But so that's the feeling I had working with you, Jack. When Jackie brought you into our group, yes, you were a male, but that didn't really matter to me. What mattered, and you've both hit on it already, is that there was a huge amount of trust there. So regardless of gender, regardless of academic status, etc., there was enough trust that any issue, was sort of pushed to the periphery, and we could get at, identifying values and be honest about, looking for critical feedback. Yes, there's an inherent humility, but I think that's more of a personal trait than a gender trait.
And it would be very interesting to see if there is a big difference between elementary teachers and high school teachers, say, in terms of their trust in their own abilities. I don't know, I'm not familiar with the secondary, and Liz, you might speak to this, but certainly in the elementary, there is that squeeze, that constant sort of has been anyway, constant top-down pressure of being watched, of being assessed, of being told this is how you should be doing it, and these are, why aren't you doing this, or how can you show me you're doing this, sort of thing. There's very little trust of teachers built into the system. Yes.
Definitely like that in the UK as well, in relation to what we call early years educators. These are the groups that deal with babies from 0 until about 5. And again, their status is very low. So it feels very similar. But could I just ask a question? It was about what Jackie had put about the Harriet Breaker quote, where Harriet identified a number, it says, of faulty assumptions found in high-achieving women. So that was where the gender issue seemed to me to be worth looking at. And maybe we can come back to this sometime and just look at those 7 qualities that Harriet is saying. Look, this is what she's noted in her research into high-achieving women.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we feel?
I can see you, Jack and Jackie, now.
Good.
Lovely. It's still going round and round in the heart.
Oh, right. So it may come. Very good.
I wonder if it's got anything to do with the snow there.
It may, do you know, I mean, it's strange, but it may have in terms of the interference with the signals, you know, the bandwidth.
But you're still frozen on my screen.
All right. Well, you're still clear and speaks. So we're recording this anyway, and it's still coming through, which is really good.
So, next steps then, Liz, you're thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll finish thinking today.
Okay, well...
Would it help if I were to look at what you've written, Jack, and make some additions or responses to it, and then we might do it as kind of a dialogue, Liz?
Sure, we can do that. I just think, just off the cuff, my initial response is that the paper lost a bit of flow. But then I got thinking about the gender issue. So I want to go back, and I was just doing that before the call, looking at it again, and I thought, well, maybe it hasn't lost its flow. So I need to go back and look at that. I'm wondering if the gender issue isn't a whole other paper, Jack.
Okay, well, even as you're saying, you know, what's being said now, I think there may be something very important indeed around this notion of flow. Now, and I actually think it does have a gender bias because as I redrafted the paper, I was actually conscious of removing a lot of dialogue. And I think that might be what he's saying to you. Look, I think it's lost a lot of flow. So it might be that my analytic, almost the maleness of my analytic is getting in the way. It's eliminating some of the qualities of dialogue, which Mary Catherine Bateson pointed to when she said, look, we've got to look at women's ways of knowing in the sense of the plurality, of the multiplicity that they hold. And I do think there's something within a conversational form that if you do what Jackie was suggesting, which is let Jackie just look at what I've written, respond to it, but then you both have a conversation where it might be that kind of the flow of the conversation needs to be highlighted in the paper.
I think you've hit it bang on right there.
Okay.
I think that's brilliant, actually. I think that needs to be written into the paper.
Okay.
Well, my observation is that there is probably a section in here where we talk about the process of the writing, which is, in essence, the methodology, right? And where we talk about, you know, how we arrived at what we did arrive at in terms of findings. And I think that my feeling is that I wouldn't worry about flow just yet, because that's something that we can play with once we figure we've got all the data within the paper that we need, and then go back and see where things maybe need to be moved or focused or whatever. And we still have the last version, so if there's anything that needs to come back in, that certainly can happen. But my feeling was of the paper that Jack worked on, there was too much in it. But whether what's come out is exactly what we need out is something we can still discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I really like the idea of you working on that, Jackie, and then having the conversation with Liz and perhaps Cathy to see, okay, you know, what I took out, which I understand in relation to my analytic, might deny some of the essence of what it is that we're after. So I like that idea that you will, you know, work at that, have a look at it, then have the conversation and maybe see what needs to be brought back in.
I think I would like to look at this clip again and transcribe some of this dialogue to explain how I was processing.
Okay, so as soon as we've finished, I'll get this onto YouTube and send you the URLs.
Okay, that makes sense to me because I actually like this little piece of dialogue we just had because I always love to try to get on the inside of how we create the new knowledge as much as actually creating it.
Yeah.
Because for me, that helps others understand the process. It's not just, well, here it is, thunk, but this is how we got to this. And that helps others, to process their own thinking.
Yeah. No,
well,
I like that.
Yeah, that's the piece that's important to the culture of inquiry, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is.
Making explicit the process.
Yes.
Yeah. And I certainly there's plenty here, even though we don't all have visuals, but there's still plenty here, I think, that supports the use of the visual as well. Okay. Because when I didn't have it, I didn't feel as engaged as I do now that I can see you and see your nodding and your smiles. And so that's kind of interesting that I didn't have it initially. And
Yeah. No,
I still don't have your face, Liz, but I feel you present.
Are we okay then? Cathy, are you all right? If we, what I can do, as I say, are you okay for next week? And
yes.
Yeah, same kind of time.
Yeah.
And I'll do this now immediately. I'll put this onto YouTube. I'll send you the email so you can access.
Okay.
Okay.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So, is it possible, Liz and Cathy, to get a conversation sometime this week where we go and look at what I sent out alongside what Jack has drafted, and then we have a conversation about it?
Good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the evening.
Okay, you tell me when.
I'm home every evening.
I can't do Thursday, but any other evening would be fine.
So pick one.
Wednesday?
Okay. All right. Wednesday at...
Liz, what's, I can do...
You pick, Cathy. You have more going on at home.
Probably 8 o'clock is better in terms of getting the kids settled and then...
All right. 8 o'clock Wednesday.
Does that work for your time, Jackie?
Well, it'll be pitch black, but I mean, there are lights around here. We'll give it a try. Now, I don't have call recorder. Does anybody else have call recorder?
Yeah, I can record it.
Okay. So do you want to make the call, Liz?
Sure. Yeah.
So 8 o'clock Wednesday, and in the interim, we both looked at these last two versions of the paper and checked for what Liz feels that we've lost, and any kind of observations we have on it. And I'm going to do it in a note form. And Liz, you talked about doing some transcribing.
Yeah.
Are we all okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get it on now.
Okay. It's interesting not being able to see you, but I certainly love hearing your voices.
Still wonder the reading words on a page.
One thing, Jack, you were going to send me one of your last responses to a PhD. They don't have a framework from...
Yes, no, you're right. No, I'll get that on the email as well, Jackie.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Great.
All right.
Yep.
Let's give it a try Wednesday night, and we're on again for next Sunday, same time.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.